Yes, welcome into Sportsbet. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Hump Day, August 2nd. Big game breakdown. Cubs and the Diamondbacks, a good one. Godley against Arrieta. The deep dive football's here. Rob Veno, part one. Teams to bet on and teams to fade in the Power 5 conferences. Part one coming up later today. Oh, this one's one for the ages. The Indians and the Red Sox, bad beat, bad bet, bad for the books, all in the same one. Let's start with the bad beat. Indians plus the 1.5 was vicious. Red Sox took money, 5-0 in the second. That lead disappeared like that. It was 5. Game went over in the second inning. 5-5 in the bottom of the second. The Red Sox take the lead 7-5. Austin Jackson robs a home run, one of the best catches you're ever going to see. Kimbrel blows the save in the ninth. And then in the bottom of the ninth, after it looks like the Indians are going to win, Moreland strikes out but reaches as the ball gets away, and then a 3-run walk-off bomb that covers the run line. Your standard 12-10 Red Sox win.
Yeah, I mean, the rarest of all games, Pauly, really. You have a bad beat, a bad bet, and a bad result for the house all in one game. How's that possible? You know, it's insane. But clearly, Cleveland, when it comes to in-game wagering, they were minus 1,000 or higher twice during that ball game in live betting, and they lost. That's an ouchie, you know? I mean, this once elite bullpen has been rather vulnerable of late. Cody Allen's first blown save since May.
Yes. How about the under? Oh my God, we weren't the only ones. We just got to bet the Dodgers every day for our best bet. We should have been doing that for 2 months. The under was an American League game. First of all, this always happens when you get a great pitching matchup. It's like 9-8. But in any event, they bet this from 8-7 in an American League game that was lined at 7. And of course, it went over in the bottom of the second. Both pitchers had nothing, and Sale finally gave up a run. Well, a lot more than that. But his scoreless streak came to an end in the second inning.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the bad bet. You know, we had it here on Sportsbet. And that being said, I promise you're not going to catch me betting another MLB under for a while after back-to-back wrong sides with the unders. Well, at least for a week or two. But we're transitioning to football. The baseball, in terms of plays of the day, we'll have a few, but they'll be fewer and farther between as we get into August. But, yeah, plenty of company in the betting marketplace. I mean, this is one of those how much would you have lost if situation. Let's say someone let you bet at even money that in one game, Carrasco, Sale, Miller, Kimbrel, and Allen are all going to give up home runs. Well, that's what happened last night. So, no question, bad bet, ton of under money, all of it was wrong.
Yep, my mistake. Sale gave up a 3 spot in the first. And then bad for the books. Red Sox opened $1.40, closed $1.65. They're going to cash if Kimbrel closes it. He couldn't do that. Then they get the miracle cover on the run line as well. Another bad beat. This was brutal. Max Scherzer hits a home run as the Nationals were bet up from 205 to 220. 6-0 Nationals. Scherzer goes deep. Then he gets hurt. He has to come out of the game, and of course the Nationals bullpen gets involved and they blow it.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be a Nationals bullpen that's better now, remember? You know, they just got, 3 guys at the trading deadline. They're supposed to solve the problems. Well, Dusty Baker finds a way. Oh, goodness. This is a moose, you know? I mean, you call it a bad beat, and it wasn't even the lead story, and yet this is a frickin' moose. You have Max Scherzer on the hill and a 6-0 lead. Scherzer's gone yard. You're feeling pretty good about your wager right there. To lose that game, that's tough. My condolences to anyone that had Washington run line. That's a tough beat.
Well, we almost no-hit him the last time in that ballpark. Bad bet. The Braves and the Braves over. Dodgers win again, 3-2. You can't go against the Dodgers. There was some early money against Maeda. The Dodgers are 75-31. They've won 9 in a row. They're on pace for 115 wins. I think that's now 66-20 since they called up Bellinger, and he hits another home run. That's your MVP, baby.
Yeah, Maeda had his best game of the season. You know, we talked about him on Sportsbet yesterday, saying all he's got to do is eat up 5 now. All he's got to do is eat up 5, and that's all he's been capable of doing. Well, against the Braves' cold lineup, 7 innings, 0 runs, 2 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Now, you know, the bettors weren't excited about Maeda. They certainly weren't excited about Lucas Sims, the hometown kid, maybe nervous in his debut, all that over money. He held up well, didn't walk a batter in 6 innings of work.
All right, and bad for the books. They were cutting in line to bet. And, you know, we talked about this with our stats guy. How often are you going to see a last place team laying over $2 on the road? This was Stroman against Pelfrey. and a big move on the Blue Jays, open $1.95, close $2.25.
Yeah, and we talk about the Dodgers winning every day, and the books are getting crushed when that happens. When the White Sox are losing every day right now, and they have been pretty consistently over the course of the last couple of weeks, that too has become a big problem for sportsbooks. Sportsbooks do not like August baseball because the same teams, the bettors are on them every day, on or against. You can see the money coming in against the White Sox every single day. 7th time in the last 9 games that the line moved at least 30 cents off the opener against Chicago. And, of course, any chance the markets have to fade Mike Pelfrey, they'll do it. Pelfrey now 25-59 since the start of 2011.
Very good article yesterday from David Purdom, ESPN Chalk, talking about the Mayweather-McGregor fight. And they talked to Jimmy Vaccaro. They talked to a lot of bookmakers. The McGregor money will not stop in the huge ticket disparity. And the point of Purdom's article is, when will the bosses, the big bosses at the casinos, step in and tell the sportsbook directors the liability's too big? We got to lower the price on Mayweather in case McGregor somehow, some way gets lucky.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a great article. And Purdom, he writes excellent stuff for ESPN Chalk. I have no hesitation recommending David Purdom's article because, of course, his articles, plural, because he's a guy that gets it right. He gets it. And so many writers, when it comes to sports betting and sports gambling issues, don't get it. Purdom does. So let's give him credit. But a couple of great quotes in this article. Here's one from Jason Simbal, the Vice President of Risk for CG Technology here in Vegas. Quote, "We could be in a position on the fight, for example, where we can lose several million and only win a few 100,000. That's not the scenario any sportsbook really wants to be in." Of course, Simbal talking about how they're really getting excited with McGregor money, that the money is just intensified. It hasn't slowed down. It continues to come in on a night in, night out, day in, day out basis on McGregor. MGM, they had more than 1,800 bets on McGregor, less than 50 on Mayweather. His quote, "The liability is quickly approaching 7 figures. It's not making me nervous, but some guys on my team have said, how long are we going to let this go?" But Rude continued, quote, "Floyd is 49-0 for a reason, a perfect return on investment. So I don't want to give too much away on that side and end up needing McGregor for a big amount. If you go back at Floyd's average price the last 10 years, it's got to be north of $6, and that's against the top competition in boxing. So now you're going to give him a sub-average price for a guy that's never really boxed in his life? I'm not willing to put Floyd Mayweather on a blue light special. We're at minus 750, and I think that's a blue light special." So, great quotes that Purdom captured about how the books are approaching the risk and managing the risk. They're going to be sided here. They know that if Floyd Mayweather loses, it's going to be a bad, bad day for the house.
And the worst of all time at William Hill, that's Nick Bogdanovich, Director of Trading. He said that, and they took a $150,000 bet on McGregor. They have nothing to worry about. The true line should be $4,000 or $5,000 with Mayweather. It's a total con. Up next, big game breakdown. One game. It's a good one. The Diamondbacks and the Cubs, and then Rob Veno on college football on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
All right, we're back. Time for Big Game Breakdown. As always, sponsored and powered by Bet Online. Go to sportsbookreview.com for the latest and best offers to open a new account today and the great customer service and giving the players what they want at Bet Online. It's Godley against Arrieta. The Bet Online number, Cubs $1.50, no total overnight on Wrigley. Cubs 14-3 to break, 8 wins by 3 runs or more. Easy win. Everything went right. Rizzo had 2 home runs. Baez went deep. Lester had a home run as the Cubs blow out the Diamondbacks. I was watching the last game. It seems to me Arrieta's kind of changed his delivery a little bit and how he's throwing the ball. Well, look at post-All-Star break. 2-0 with a 2.33 over 3 starts. Only 11 hits allowed in 18 innings. Post-All-Star break. Has he turned the corner?
Well, he's saying that he's just starting. Here's the quote from Jake Arrieta. "I still feel like I haven't pitched my best yet. I'm in a really good spot, and I still feel like I'm getting stronger and stronger as every start passes by, and that's a good feeling." But, we're seeing, stats-wise, a very different Jake Arrieta post-break than pre-break, and the fact that he's saying, hey, I still haven't brought my A game to the table is a positive sign for Chicago bettors. And yet, what have we seen? You know, a Cubs team that's 14-3 since the break, that it's crushing teams consistently on a nightly basis. There's been heavy, not a little bit, heavy D-back steam off the opener in this one. Nothing but Arizona money. Why? Well, the bettors want a piece of Mr. Godley.
Yeah, and Arizona hasn't been able to get the bats going lately. Only 13 runs in a 4-game set against St. Louis. They still should have won 3 out of 4 in that series. One of the games they lost was 1-0. 3 runs or less in 3 of the 5 games before that. We've talked many times here about Godley. Quietly good. 4-4 with a 3.06 over 14 starts. Doesn't set off the alarms, but Arizona's 3-5 in his 9-5 in his starts. And look at this. The FIP is 9th. The xFIP is 10th of 112 pitches at 80 innings pitched or more. He's got good numbers.
Yeah, I mean, there really are no bad categories right now for Zach Godley. I mean, when you say, is he really a top 10 guy? You know, all right, he's 10th in xFIP, he's 5th and 9th in FIP. Come on, Zach Godley. Well, what's he got? The strikeout per 9 is there. The walk per 9 is there. The ground ball rate is there. You know, under the radar, he's been a real moneymaker. And certainly, now he's starting to look like, at least from the marketplace developments today, maybe he's getting a little bit of a bandwagon. The key, of course, for Godley has been the development of his curveball. 2015, 11% of the time. Last year, more than 25% of the time. This year, he's throwing it almost 1/3 of the time, and it's really keeping opposing hitters off balance, and it's keeping those same hitters from doing anything when it comes to getting the ball into the air. That 57.5% ground ball rate really is a special stat. It's one of the reasons that Zach Godley is attracting all of this betting attention. But, of course, it won't matter if he's, the Cubs lineup gets going. You talked about Arizona and their struggles offensively. What, they get 4 last night with a run in the 9th, when they were down 12 going into the inning, or 13 going into the inning. Their bats aren't going. The Cubs' bats, well, I mean, they were on fire coming out of the break. They cooled off over the weekend in Milwaukee, only 7 runs in the 3-game set. But they woke up right back again as they returned to Wrigley last night. And the pitching has been good enough to carry them of late, both starters and bullpen.
The market's finally catching on to Arizona. Going into last night's game, they had the 3rd best record in the National League, and they've been making a ton of money if you've been betting them since April.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, the markets have kind of caught up and surpassed Arizona, perhaps, a team that has played excellent baseball all season long. But the markets haven't been sleeping on the D-backs. They've been sleeping more on the Rockies than on Arizona when it comes to the 2 NL wildcard teams.
All right, up next, the Deep Dive. Part 1 with Rob Veno. College football. Teams to bet on, teams to fade in college football. How about some Miami, Minnesota, row the boat, little Kansas State as well. Coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Welcome back to SportsBit, and we're going to bring in Rob Veno in just a moment to do a deep dive into college football. We're doing a 2-parter with Rob. Part 1 today, part 2 on tomorrow's SportsBit. And the reason that I bring in Rob Veno is for just about every sport prior to the season. I know we had a great couple of segments with Rob Veno talking baseball prior to the start of the baseball season, highlighting good and bad bullpens, good and bad lineups. I remember somebody telling me that the Houston Astros lineup was going to be extraordinary this season. That was Rob Veno. Rob does his homework as much as anybody that I've ever met. So when it comes to talking college football at the beginning of August, Rob was number 1 on my speed dial list. Mr. Veno, welcome to SportsBit. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for that great introduction, Teddy. Glad to be with you, buddy.
Well, you deserve it. But no stretch of the imagination does Rob Veno not come into a podcast prepared. And I know you've been doing your homework on college football all summer long. So what I want to do, we're going to split it up into 3 parts. We're going to go through the 5 major conferences, and then the 6th is the AAC. I'm calling the AAC like a mid-major because they're a heck of a lot better than the CUSA or Mountain West or Sun Belt or MAC. So we're going to go through 6 conferences in total. And Rob has highlighted 1 team from each of the 6 conferences that we're going to talk about as a bet on or a bet against or an over or an under. And let's start in the ACC. Rob, where do you want to go with your ACC highlighted team?
Yeah, it's an interesting conference this year, Teddy. You look at the Atlantic Division, you see all kinds of returning quarterbacks, with the exception of Deshaun Watson. The Coastal, hardly any returning quarterbacks, with the exception of Duke and Daniel the Truth Jones. But I'm going to go to Miami of Florida. Mark Richt's second year as a bet-on team here. I really like the defensive line here, Teddy. I'm big on teams, and you can only find a handful of them across the country that can rush the passer and defend the pass. It's a tough combination to find. And when you get that hand and glove fit, those defenses are really special. I think that's what Miami's going to have this year as they break in a new quarterback. Manny Diaz, defensive coordinator, tremendous job last year for this team. The entire front seven returns. Obviously, as I said earlier, the secondary is going to benefit from a big pass rush on this team. A little known commodity here, Teddy. The defensive line coach, Craig Gulikowski from Missouri, made a big difference in this team last year. All of the quarterback changes that are going to happen in the Coastal, I think I'm least swayed by the Miami one. You know, Brad Kaya didn't seem to fit into Mark Richt's system last year. He's now gone. He's only a sixth-round draft choice of the Lions, so maybe he wasn't as special as we thought. Malik Rozier is going to step in. One start last year, 20 of 29 against Duke. He's a dual-threat quarterback, experienced offensive line with a great ground game. I'll tell you what, the last 5 games they played last year, 5-0 against the spread, win by 23, 20, 14, 19, and 17. Give me Miami this year. I think they'll be a productive spread team.
Excellent analysis there, Rob. Let's move on, because certainly Miami, a team that, and Kaya in particular, I mean, I thought the Lions got a bargain with this guy. He was just someone who talked about as being a potential first-round talent. He didn't fit into Rick's offense. I think you nailed that right, and they may have a better fit this year with Rozier. All right, let's move on to the Big Ten, and this is a team that you're looking to fade, Mr. Veno, the Minnesota Golden Gophers. What's wrong with Minnesota going into 2017?
You know, as we start and then progress in this business, Teddy, we're always looking for maybe somebody that the public doesn't see, maybe somebody that the public does see. PJ Fleck has become front and center with the betting public. Great job at Western Michigan. And you have to sense that this team is going to be a bit overvalued just on the hiring of PJ Fleck. I feel like this is a football team here where PJ Fleck is coming in to start from scratch, going to tear it down, and then rebuild this team. Remember, he's not here, Teddy, to come in and take what's handed to him, grab 7 wins, and go to a bunch of minor bowl games. This guy has grand visions of winning division titles, winning conference titles, and going to bigger bowl games. So things are going to be torn down. Recruiting is going to be different around Minnesota. And while a lot of players accept it, a lot don't like it. I think this is the weeding out process for Minnesota this year. I think that the system changes are going to be a little difficult for this team. Let's face it, this is going to be the third offensive system in the last 3 years. And when you go through them, Teddy, these are drastic changes. 3 years ago, Jerry Kill. We know what that's all about. Last year, they hired University of Louisiana Lafayette, Jay Sawville, to come in here and run this offense. It didn't work. Now this year, you got PJ Fleck's offense. 3 different offenses, 3 different years. A team that's not that good offensively to begin with. Mitch Leidner now out at quarterback. They're going through a new quarterback phase. I think they're overvalued. Give me the opposite of whoever Minnesota's playing on most occasions this year, and I'll be a happy guy.
And it's so funny, Rob, because every year you see the same thing in college football. The coach who just got hired gets a ton of hype. The coach who's actually had a year or two to install his game plan and get his players recruited and get his teams up to speed, they don't get as much hype. I like to look for second and third year college head coaches a lot more than I like to look for first year college head coaches when it comes to bet on situations. One more conference to go through with Rob Veno today. Of course, we'll have part 2 of this deep dive tomorrow. Rob, let's go to the Big 12. What's your highlighted team in this conference?
Hey, how about we go to the oldest coach in America, Bill Snyder, right? Kansas State, Teddy. When you look over this conference, there's certain directions you could go, and we're singling out one team here per conference. in this podcast, but there are other options in these conferences. I happen to like Kansas State in this one because of the improvement on the offensive side of the football. You know, it's a team that still plays a little different, more methodical than what college football is played at pace-wise nowadays. However, this year, dual threat quarterback Jesse Ertz, he's going to benefit from an improved wide receiving core. This team made it a focal point beginning in the spring to improve their aerial attack to go with a real good ground game. There's a ton of returnees across this offense, Teddy, as far as offensive line, running backs, and of course, Ertz, the big name at quarterback. They went out, they imported a Cal transfer named Carlos Strickland to play wide receiver, 6'4" kid out of the Bear Raid offense to try and move the ball vertically down the field more. I like that because if Kansas State improves point-wise, production on the scoreboard, then they're going to cover even more games. The defense was sound last year, totally intact again for the most part this year. You know, last season, this team, if you take their yards per carry margin from offense and defense, they're plus 1.6 yards per carry. They rushed for 5.3. They only allowed 3.7. It's a pretty good football team at the point of attack. 6 of 9 Big 12 opponents last year couldn't score over 27 points against this Kansas State defense. I'd expect this improved offense to make games closer. The 3 games where they allowed over 27, they didn't cover any of them. But if they can score more this year, I bet you they reversed 2 of those 3 results. 8-5 last year with a limited offense. I don't think they're going to be priced much differently this season, Teddy. There's plenty of teams to look at in the Big 12 rather than K-State. They're kind of the mundane team. Price tag doesn't change. I'll take Kansas State in a lot of situations this year. I think they'll be a ticket casher.
Yeah, and of course, Bill Snyder's track record with a senior quarterback, an experienced senior quarterback, has been very, very good over his 26 years on the job at Kansas State. Rob Veno, I know the folks out there can find you at Rob Veno Sports. They can find you at sportsmemo.com. What do you want to promote? And tell me about your Twitter account.
Well, certainly a Twitter, just go to Rob Veno 1. You can find whatever we tweet there. Certainly as far as promotional stuff goes, Teddy, for the season, we'd love to promote the website, Rob Veno Sports, much more of a statistical site than others. So you can get good numbers there if you're looking to do your own handicapping. And of course, plays available there, but most certainly sportsmemo.com, where you'll find daily stuff in all major sports every single day. So sportsmemo.com, robvenosports.com.
Rob Veno, thanks so much for joining us for part 1 of this segment. We'll have part 2 on tomorrow's Deep Dive. We break down the Pac-12, the SEC, and the AC right here on Sports.
Wrapping it up. Very good, Rob Veno. Part 2 tomorrow. So he likes Miami, K-State, and he's down on Minnesota. Fleck's a hell of a coach. It might take a while, though. He's an acquired taste. Let's just say that with his antics. But a hell of a coach. Here it is. Football, baby. Hall of Fame game Thursday. Big move on the total already. We'll get to that coming up tomorrow. But our first football play, back to Minnesota. Teddy, what are we doing?
Yeah, let's take a look at game number 135. This is week 1 of college football, played Thursday, August 31st. So you have plenty of time, and there's no urgency to get it, but we're talking college football on today's show. I definitely want to give a play of the day in college football for today's show. Let's take a look at Buffalo, plus the 26.5 at Minnesota. Again, that's Thursday, August 31st. We got the anti-Gophers. Plus, Lance Leopold's Bull Squad, last year they were the least experienced team in the MAC. That's not the case in 2017. They got 68 career starts back on the offensive line and a competent dual-threat quarterback in Tyree Jackson who's been raising some eyebrows. Yeah, let's take Buffalo plus the 26.5 at the Golden Gophers. That's our first football play of the day.
There it is. 20 games over 500 last year and almost 70 picks. Let's do it again. Tomorrow, Hall of Fame game. Cardinals, Cowboys, and part 2 with Rob Veno. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends football's here. Let's get nasty on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.